Hello there, everyone. So this is a video that people have asked for a long time, and we've just never found time to do it. It's crazy. I can't even illustrate how busy things are always around here. I mean, we have Anime Expo coming up, but this video has been asked for a long time. So like, okay, let's just do this. And so what I did is I scripted things out for a beginner's guide. I don't know if this is necessarily for just a first timer alone or just somebody that may want a refresher. I know some people say they just like watching the videos that we do just because it's like a Comic-Con tradition. So maybe even veterans will want to watch this and they can share their own thoughts, suggestions, etc. in the comments. But this one, because we do need to keep it pretty simple this time around, maybe we can make it a little fancier next year. I'm like, we're just going to do this like, you know, break it down almost like video essay style. So I went through, I looked at the convention and really tried to think about like when I first started attending or when we've had friends attend in more recent years where the show has changed quite a bit, and tried to think of like, okay, so what are some of the most fundamental things that are important for new people coming to the show to help them? So for those of you that asked this year, that commented on YouTube videos, that emailed us, that hit us up on social media, that we bumped into at theme parks or things like that, that brought up first timer guides, this is for you. We hope that it helps at least one person out there that watches this video. So first off, we're going to talk general philosophy. So some things I think are really important about this video and how it ties into this incredible convention center that houses this incredible con behind me here. San Diego Comic-Con will be here where I'm sitting. Hall H is going to be, you know, this is going to be the line. It's going to be thousands and thousands of people fighting to get into a Marvel panel or whatever else may be coming up there. But what's important to know, I think, and is hard a lot of times for new attendees, particularly those that have some convention experience but not San Diego Comic-Con experience, is that there really is no one way to do San Diego Comic-Con. Even if you are a pro of pros when it comes to conventions, I know for myself there were so many conventions I had attended before ever coming to San Diego Comic-Con in 2005. But even back in those days, once we came, it's like, this isn't like anything I'd ever been to. This was a totally different type of show. And so I think coming to grips with that going into the con is really important, is just knowing that there isn't just one way. So nothing that I say is anything that I would want someone watching this to think like, okay, I have to do it this way. This is the only way to do it. There are so many ways to do everything at San Diego. So hopefully, first off, if you're a little tense or nervous about the show, because it can be a pretty intimidating convention, is just kind of take a breath and think on that note, is that there isn't just one way. Whatever you do, you're going to find your own way. You're going to take tips from me, from others, your own experiences, and you're going to end up finding the best way to attack San Diego Comic-Con and the best way to enjoy it ultimately as you look at year 2, 3, 4. I think the way that Carmel and I do San Diego Comic-Con, it's not like anyone else I know, honestly. And I really love the way we do it, but I don't think it's something that is necessarily, you know, for everybody. And so as I share those things, kind of keep that in mind. Very important to understand this show is so much work. I really think it's like nothing else in terms of the amount of work when it comes to fandoms, like the amount of effort it takes to get your badge, to get hotel rooms, to get signings, exclusives, parking. Like everything about this show is very challenging, and so much of the things about the show is very expensive as well, particularly in the economy that we have now. I mean, San Diego is a pricey place, and so there's a lot of sacrifice that comes into coming to San Diego Comic-Con. And so I think it's really then becomes like a moral imperative to make sure to commit yourself to enjoying it. Like we see so many people have meltdowns at Comic-Con and end up in arguments with their friends or family or things like that. And I feel like coming into the week, I mean, it's bound to have times that things get a little, you know, edgy and things like that. And it is a lot of stress, but you really want to commit to like when Sunday comes and the show is wrapped up, that you leave and say, this was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. In fact, I always think it's a lot of the work is what makes it fun, because I feel like so many people at San Diego Comic-Con, one of the really unique things about the convention is there is a communal feeling amongst so many of the fans that like, we really worked hard to be here. Like we didn't just decide a week ago to buy tickets. We didn't just, you know, drive down to check out the show. The first year I came in 2005, that's exactly what we did. We drove down, we parked kind of far away, but we walked up to the door on a Saturday, bought a ticket, and walked onto the floor. And so it's not that anymore. There's been a lot of sacrifice that brings me to San Diego Comic-Con. And so it's really imperative to enjoy it. I always recommend trying to enjoy the prep. The prep is part of the fun. You know, this is a season of preparation, and those updates that come out, that we hear that this new, you know, whatever, this new movie's coming, TV show, exclusive, artist, whatever it is, try to enjoy that. It's part of the fun of it, is that there's going to be things. I mean, to me, the best thing about Comic-Con is there's so many things you don't know that show up. And so the idea that there's these surprises to come, that's part of the enjoyment of it. Enjoy the mystery, enjoy the potential. Make sure to pace yourself. Again, we're just talking general philosophies right now, but really pace yourself. There's so many over the years of us going to Comic Con that I'll see do the kind of what's sleep, at Comic Con type thing. And that, when we talk about the different ways to do the con, that is not my way to do the con. Like, to me, sleep is an important thing. I feel like trash if I don't get at least, 5, 6 hours. So I'm not saying that like we're sleeping in. We're always, rope dropping the convention center. We're always there early in the morning. We're often out late at night. But we really make sure to find time so that we have a bit of rest in there. And I think that's really important to pace yourself. We take breaks a lot. I've had a lot of foot surgeries, or feet surgeries on my feet is maybe a better way to say it. So I do need a lot of breaks. So we do a lot during the con, but also we find those times to take breaks. We're big on taking a lunch, taking a dinner, like finding those. And it doesn't always work out great. Sometimes dinner ends up being after 9 o'clock at night and we're like, oh, that sucks. And, things are closed down. But we do try to go into it with the goal of having those things. And I do find that they help us a lot. Now, again, for you, maybe not as necessary. Maybe you know yourself, you don't need as much sleep, you don't need food breaks, you're fine with a granola bar, whatever. And again, that's perfect for you. But if you're not like that, also don't feel bad about it. Because I feel like sometimes people almost feel bad that they're like, I have to be staying up till 2 in the morning and getting up at 4, or I'm not Comic-Conning right. And I think it's just, if you've watched, you can go back on our playlist and watch our wrap-up videos like each year on Sunday. We do a lot. We get a lot of exclusives, a lot of signings, a lot of offsites. Like, we do a lot, and we have since 2005, to be honest. But we also take, an hour to have a lunch or a dinner or things like that. And so I think, again, we all do it different, but it's something to know, that you're not odd if you do need sleep, I guess is what I want to come down to, or you do need those breaks. Know if you're new to the show that you can only do a tiny slice of it. There's so much at San Diego Comic-Con. Again, it's part of the excitement of it. You can only do not even a percent of it, and just kind of take comfort in that. Know that you're going to miss panels. Know that you're going to miss off-sites. You're going to miss swag. You're going to miss exclusives. That's part of what makes it great when there's so many great things. If you miss a great thing for something else that's great, that's not a bad thing. That's kind of like the best thing in the world, I always think. It's like such an awesome thing. I know it stresses some people out, but it's so awesome that there's so many great things that sometimes you miss some great things and you end up home, and that's that. All right, now let's talk. We move from philosophies to some general tips, kind of getting information and things like that during the con. Number one tip in terms of information is really, you got to use X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. If we've talked about on our live shows this year, like, Twitter is not as good as it used to be. To me, it doesn't work anywhere near functionally as well as it did when we started like building parks and cons on Twitter alone in those earliest days. But at the end of the day, we cover a lot of live events. We cover 40, 50 conventions a year. We cover hundreds of days in theme parks a year. And for live events, there's just nothing really close to it in terms of the way the information moves and the way you can find the information, and particularly at San Diego Comic-Con. So I very much suggest, even if you hate, Twitter, X, get on there, make an account, have it open for the couple weeks before Comic-Con, use it during Comic-Con, and then delete it, and then bring it back next year or whatever. I'm not saying to make a lifetime commitment to it, but during the con, it is the place that the information goes, and it's the easiest to find it there and to pull it and make it useful for you. I also suggest following along, obviously, with us on Twitter, because we post all sorts of, I don't think there's anybody that covers a convention the way we do. Like, we are like our logo, like whirling around and finding and sharing as many things as we can. Oftentimes I'm sharing like swag giveaways in real time at 9 in the morning. And so if you're following along, I'm not saying I can do it all the time, but there's times that, we've had people, it's like I'm posting something at 9:01 in the morning, and at 9:02 they're picking it up right behind me that they're finding out about. So we definitely will be doing all that. Our friends over at the SDCC unofficial blog, definitely be following along with them. No one aggregates the news like they do. No one, the Wrap, Variety, Deadline, they all have great little pieces of things here and there, but nobody goes into the depth and finds all of the things, all of the artist commissions, all of the swag drops that have been released, offsite activations, lineup procedures, etc. SD_comic_con. Follow along with them there for that information. Also on Twitter or X, you can search hashtag SDCC tips if you want to see all of the things that we've been posting of these tips, you know, there's aggregated there as well. That can be helpful. Another just general tip, I'm really I'm sorry, on bringing a bag that has like what I need in it. So we did a whole separate video, a backpack video, if you want to check that out, and I talk more about that. But I just, whether you carry a backpack, a purse, a fanny pack, handbag, WB bag, whatever it might be, I'm just really big on, like, I personally like to have the things I need on me, so I'm not forced to have to leave experiences to buy things. Like, I don't really want to have to worry about getting in a 10-minute line to buy a bottle of water. I don't want to worry about having to get, you know, chips or granola bar or whatever. Like, I like to have those things on me. So the price of it, of course, is that you are carrying around something like this, and that is something that is cumbersome. So I understand why some people may not want to do that. And again, everybody does Comic Con their own way, and so it's not to say that this way is the way for you to do it, but it is, for me, a really big tip when people reach out to us and ask about, like, hey, I'm going to do Comic Con for the first time. What's one of those, like, really practical tips, things that we should know? Like, we never do the tip of, like, hey, have comfortable shoes, because it's like, I just think that's, like, you know, kind of common sense. And that side is like, of course, you're going to do a lot of walking in this giant convention center behind me. But in terms of like those physical other things that you might need, what are they? Is there medication, hand sanitizer? You know, the list goes on and on. Again, we have a separate video on our playlist there with all sorts of things related to the bag. So now let's talk exclusives. And I know that's one of the things, and this will kind of tie us into talking about the portal, and like the lottery situation and all of that. But that was like one of the big questions people often have, is how those things work. So let's talk about exclusives first off. In this day and age of Comic Con, it almost feels like more booths have exclusives than not exclusives. So many booths have exclusives. So many artists and artist alleys have exclusives. So many of the big box booths have exclusives. There's just a lot of exclusives. So when you hear that term exclusive, you know that it really ranges in size, and it ranges in challenge of how to get. It ranges in how busy it'll be. It ranges in price. The exclusive term covers a lot. In the old days when we started coming, exclusives were like, you know, Hasbro had 4, 5, 6 things. Mattel had 6, 7 things. And that's about it, it felt like. It didn't feel like there was that much more. Now, you know, just one artist and artist alley will have more than that. And so there's a lot out there in terms of exclusives. So understand they're big and small. They also range from incredibly rare to being on clearance a year from now. I mean, there are exclusives that literally will end up on clearance at a variety of places. And so don't feel like just because it says exclusive, that means it's going to be something that's going to be, you know, $100 after the convention or things like that. You've got to really measure it against. I mean, if it's an artist and artist alley that's doing 10 of something, that's probably it. That probably is it. But, you know, if it's Mattel doing their Batman figures, like, they're probably going to be able to be gotten in other ways, you know, after the show. So, of course, you may want to try to get them via the portal, the exclusives portal. But if you don't get them, you usually don't have to worry too bad. There usually are other opportunities. You know, you can always go to eBay even to get those things. And, you know, on eBay, what we find is if you can be patient and wait till like September, October, a lot of prices drop. You know, we've seen things. I saw a Funko Fun Days figure. I mean, a really sought after thing. It was going for $1,300. It was going for $1,000. It's going for $700. Kept checking in on it. It's going for 120 bucks right now. Like, these things just can range, you know, and it may get really hot in a day from now and become really expensive again. But the point being is, don't feel like you have to ruin your convention, you know, or feel bad because you didn't get this one thing you really wanted. There's probably other ways to get it down the line if it's something from one of those larger companies. Now, also with that, know that most exclusives are non-portal, meaning most exclusives are go to the booth, get in line, get it. Maybe no line, just go to the booth and get it. There's a lot of easy to get exclusives at San Diego Comic-Con. So just because something says it's exclusive, don't think immediately that it's going to be difficult or that immediately it will be in the portal. It can be. Of course, there's a reason for those things. You know, if there is something you want at the Funko booth, that is going to be very challenging to get. And so there are those things, but there's also a lot of exclusive things that are not as challenging to get. Now let's talk specifically about the portal. So the portal opens July 8th and runs until July 18th. In the past, as we're recording this, we don't have all of that is being included in that. So I'm not sure exactly when we're going to release this video because we have a lot of videos in the queue right now. And as I said, we're heading out to Anime Expo. So a lot of videos are coming out for us in this time of July here. But as we look at the past, Funko has been a part of it, Mattel, UCC. There's been autograph signings in there. I mean, that's some of my favorite stuff to try for, is like a big studio having an autograph signing there. Hasbro's going to be in it, part of it this way. This is the first time Hasbro's coming back inside the convention center to do selling there and becoming part of that exclusive portal. So there's a variety of things that go on there. Now, in the portal, you'll get an allocation of points per day for each badge. So, if you have it's a husband and wife like Carmel and I, we each have an allocation of points. And so we'll decide as a joint strategy, what do we really want? Like, I really want that Cobra Commander and Death's Head figure. So for me, those are big deals. So how many points do we allocate? All of my points? Is Carmel going to allocate all of hers? I mean, what we do is we really look at what the other offerings are. But part of that I want to really advise as well is, remember that you can revise the tokens that you put in. You can revise these points that you put in all the way up until the deadline. So we usually don't even really bother stressing about the portal until 2 or 3 days before it's over. The other thing about it is things disappear. There'll be a celebrity signing in there, and then it turns out the celebrity cancels, and then it goes away. So you have to go in that case and update your portal. So these are all reasons why, to me, it's not much worth worrying about until about, in this case of this year, it'll probably be around July 15th, that we'll take time and go look at it and be like, okay, so what are we doing here? What's our plan? And then we'll keep an eye on it till the 18th, because maybe there's something added at the last second, an opportunity that we're interested in, or something taken away there. Remember that the more popular the thing is, the more people are going to try for it. So, of course, there's going to be a lot of attempts at Funko. If there's a big signing for DC or Marvel, there's going to be a lot of people. If House of the Dragon's there and there's a signing, there's going to be a lot of people trying for it. So there's going to be a lot of competition there. And so you do want to measure that as well, and say, is it worth it to put all my points towards this? Or maybe there's something a little easier. Maybe Jazzwares has something that I'm interested in, or UCC that I think I'll have a little better chance at. And you might want to throw a few that way. And so, again, but remember, it's not all or nothing there. I mean, on the signing side, it might be, right? Like, it's a lot harder to find a signing opportunity with a cast of one of these big TV shows or movies than it is going to be to find any of these exclusives. And so some people will just lean into that. But again, all different opportunities there. I do suggest reading the Comic-Con International. Go to their homepage there and find the portal section there for the exclusives, and look at the FAQ. Make sure to go through it thoroughly. Make sure you feel very comfortable with it. But again, there's a lot of time to ask questions about it. I feel like people get a lot more worried about that than they actually need to be. I feel like it's a bit more straightforward than it seems when you're first looking at it. And for people that are new to the con, it can seem very scary and overwhelming. And then just remember that there are other opportunities, as I already talked about. Is not much is all or nothing at Comic-Con. I mean, really, the physical experiences are the one thing that's kind of all or nothing, I guess, is when it comes to, like, the panel happens and then it's done. And if you wanted to be in the room to feel that energy, then you want to be in that room to feel that energy. And there's no way to repeat that. YouTube videos aren't going to do that. But the news that comes from them, you're going to get elsewhere. A lot of the exclusives are handled online as well. Is something like Hasbro. They're going to sell a lot of those exclusives online. Mattel as well. There's going to be other opportunities to get them before the show, after the show, etc. there. In the old days, there was a lot of exclusives that were very, very rare. That was a different time, really. It really isn't as much that anymore. In the area of signings, keeping with the portal going, there are the portal signings. Those are the biggest Hollywood signings. You're not going to find, the cast of one of these big TV or movies, TV shows or movies or streaming shows, doing signings just for pay. It's not going to be a situation. And that's, I think, one of the biggest differences between San Diego Comic-Con and a lot of conventions out there. Most conventions we go to, an LA Comic-Con, a Phoenix Fan Fusion, Star Trek Las Vegas, etc., you go and they have kind of an autograph hall, and then they have a photo op area over there, and you go and you pay your money to get your autograph. You may line up for hours, but it's pretty straightforward. Maybe they have time slots or reservations. Maybe they use some online system, but for the most part, it's just like, there's the big celebrity. Here's how much they're charging. You want to get Ewan McGregor, it's $300. This is how you do it. But at San Diego, it doesn't work that way. If Ewan McGregor were here, you would have to win some sort of lottery, most likely, to get his signature. It's not very likely that he's going to show up at a booth like $7 a pop or in the sales pavilion. That said, there are autograph opportunities in those locations. But when we talk about them, like this year, $7 a pop, they have Ashley Eckstein, they have Sean Astin, They have a few more voice actors. These are, great people, but they are not, like the headline Hollywood stars. It's not a Michael J. Fox, an icon like that. It's not a William Shatner. It's not these types of people. And so there are opportunities to buy autographs in that kind of old school way of just lining up and giving your money, but they're not usually that frontline talent. Those ones are handled by the studios with Comic Con, and there's usually some sort of lottery type situation for those. Maybe there's an offsite they're going to appear at. There's going to be something else, but it's not going to be just finding the hall. And it's one of the most common things we see people kind of that haven't been familiar with Comic Con being a little confused about that. That's not something that works there. There is no big photo op room, for example. Now, the sales pavilion, the autographs going on up there, there are some of the lottery winning ones that will happen up there. You need your, proof that you won the lottery and all that. But outside of that, there are people that you're just going to see there. You're going to see Herb Jefferson from Battlestar Galactica, old school Herb Jefferson there. You're going to see some wrestlers. You're going to have opportunities there that these people will show up and sign. But they're usually going to be, not your A-list, what's on the front page of Hall H, basically. It's going to be people that were maybe a bit more popular in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s or things like that. And so it's just important to kind of note that as well. There are ample opportunities for signatures of the most A-list talent when it comes to the comic side of things, and it's a lot easier to get. One of my favorite things to do is to go into Artist Alley and get autographs from talent that just doesn't show up in California outside of San Diego Comic-Con. So if your goals are comic related, not that it's easy to get Scott Snyder or Jim Lee or Todd McFarlane or these people, but it is a lot more doable than it is to have, the stars of the next Marvel movie or whatever it might be. Now let's talk a little bit about the swag side. I mean, swag hunting is still one of my favorite things at Comic-Con. Getting something for nothing is so fun. Going to a booth. In the old days, every booth seemed to have t-shirts and bags and USB drives and just fun stuff. The Stark Industries USB drive from back when Iron Man was first hitting theaters is still one of my favorite all-time pieces of swag. Not that I ever need a USB drive in this day and age, to be honest, but it's just so cool because it's like, hey, I work at Stark Industries is the way it looks. But you don't have quite as much of that anymore. The swag that is announced, you'll find, again, our friends at the blog will list all that there. You can follow along there and find it. Of course, people share in Facebook groups and Discord servers and things like that. But I always find, honestly, the best swag is the swag that nobody knows about. That's just at least been my experience. I don't know if it's the thrill of the hunt or what, but it's showing up at offsites, it's showing up in the floor and finding stuff that you didn't know is there. A big part of the fun to me is just zigzagging the floor, asking around, hey, Mattel, do you have any freebies this week? Oh, well, we have this, but we're already done for the day. Are you doing it tomorrow? So I'm not really big on as much, like I was talking about in other areas, like utilizing social media to find things out. I don't find that I do that as much as swag. That's just me. I really like just the hunt of it. I think the thrill of the hunt is maybe one of my favorite things about San Diego Comic-Con when it comes to the swag side. So, your mileage may vary there, it depends. But, one of my favorite all-time swag things actually was we were hunting down from the Paramount Blue booth Star Trek watches. And each day they had a different color watch. So they had red, yellow, blue, but these are nice, like a faux leather band. We still have them. I love these watches, but it was really tough to get one because they were limited, I think, like 300 or something like that. But we, talk to the booth, come back and talk to people at the booth, and we ended up getting one of each color and having that. And I still cherish that to this day because it did take a lot of effort, but it also took a lot of conversing and trying to, really think about the situation and being really in it. And that hunt was a lot of fun. So it depends. If you're not as much up to the hunt, I mean, just walking around out in the gas lamp, you'll find people handing out bags sometimes, things like that. There's all sorts of fun things that go on. So if swag's not your biggest hunting thing, then that's fine. And I wouldn't even worry about it then, but there's a lot of things to be had there. And obviously the bigger the booth means the bigger the budget. A lot of times the bigger the things that they have the opportunities to give away. And so they're not bad places to check and ask about. All right, next to last category here, panels. Schedule comes out 2 weeks before. So the Thursday, 2 weeks before the Thursday of Comic-Con, that's when Thursday will be announced. They really eventize it. Everybody kind of drops everything to check out what's the Thursday schedule, the Friday schedule, the Saturday schedule, the Sunday schedule. All great things to look at there. It's a lot of fun. That's when we really know it. Now, some of the bigger entities will announce earlier. So, for example, this year, Kevin Feige said, hey, Marvel's going to be there. And so, the biggest fish don't mind. Comic-Con International wants everybody to wait. But the biggest fish are like, hey, I'm Kevin Feige. I'm just going to tell people I'm going to be there, and they don't really care about the rules so much. And so we'll have a few more leaks coming up, but ultimately it's that 2 weeks before that we find out all of the information there. Remember about lining up. Very, very important. It is what's at the end of the day in the room that is going to really determine what the flow of the room is. So, for example, in Hall H behind me here, they could be showing reruns of canceled pilots from like 2005 all day. But if Marvel is in there at 6 p.m., on Saturday, that means people are lining up on Friday for it. It doesn't even matter what's in there the rest of the day. And so it's really important. I know it can be frustrating for people that want to see something earlier in the day, and then fans of another thing are lining up 24 hours earlier or whatever it might be. Now, if past practices hold, which I imagine they will, they'll have a wristband policy. There'll be a lot of communication from Comic-Con International about that and how that works, so make sure to follow along with that. But just remember, panels, you got to look at the end of the day and kind of work your way back in terms of how busy it'll be and what the time commitment will be for these panels. It's not a simple matter of like getting in line an hour earlier and then taking in a panel for an hour there. Going back to our friends at the blog again, they do their podcast. They do a panel breakdown show that is really fantastic. They look at a ton of different rooms and talk about the flow through. It's a great place for beginners, especially, to go and kind of hear them. Because what do you do if you've got, I don't know, 2 WWE panels and then 2 video game panels, and then that's followed by Teen Titans Go? Like, I want to just see Teen Titans Go. When do I need to get in there? And so they can kind of give you some ideas of that. Obviously, social media can help as well to kind of monitor what people are saying about the lines at room 6A or ballroom 20. We will have a convention center guide, one of our mini videos that really shows the breakdown of how to move around the convention center, the escalators, where to line up for everything else, where to line up for Hall H. So stay tuned to our channel for that, or maybe if you're watching this a few weeks after we put it out, you can find it there as well, but we'll have more on that. And then our last category, offsites. Offsites are one of the most exciting parts of San Diego Comic-Con. The Comic-Con campus, like the fact that that's such a unique thing. There's so many unique things about San Diego Comic-Con, but having an actual campus where it feels like you're like part of a community, and you go out and you see, I don't know, Peacemaker, and you go out and you see Interview with a Vampire, and you go out and you see Blue Beetle, and you see, Doctor Strange, activations, all these things from small to big. It's really what excites me a lot of times most about Comic-Con is just the immersion around us, the wraps, the trolley MTSs, all of that stuff. And so do know, though, they range. You do have, like, I don't know, last year they're promoting the Blue Beetle movie, and they're handing out Reese's peanut butter cups just on carts out in the gas lamp there. And that wasn't much of a time commitment. It was just a cool little thing. It's got Blue Beetle on it from the movie. You're getting candy free. And then you have other things like Interview with the Vampire, which was like, a very immersive world building type thing. I mean, a lot of times the immersive worlds, Blade Runner, Purge City, there's been some incredible ones. You can check out a ton of them on our YouTube channel. Those are some of our favorite experiences from Comic-Con, but they also often take some of the biggest time commitment there too. So especially in your first year, you may say like, hey, or your first couple years, I don't know if I want to commit that much time. I don't know if it matters that much to me to have a picture of me sitting on the Iron Throne that I want to lose a day of San Diego Comic-Con to it. It really is, again, coming back to opportunity costs. If I'm going to be in the panel room, I'm losing time at off-sites, I'm losing time on the floor. If I'm at off-sites, I'm losing time in the panel room, I'm losing time on the floor. If I'm on the floor, I'm losing, and that's how it all works. And again, it's all good stuff though. So it's like, it's not a bad thing, whichever choice you go with. But do remember, one of the differences with offsite activations is it also requires the walk to them, and some of those walks can be pretty lengthy. The other thing about offsite activations is, as busy as Comic-Con is, sometimes those can be some of the busiest parts of it, because a lot of locals come in, particularly on Saturday and Sunday. When they're off for the weekend, they're maybe not coming to Comic-Con. Maybe they don't even care about Comic-Con, but they kind of are interested in the spectacle. And you'll find a lot of the offsites are just packed with that many more people on Saturday and Sunday. So not that Thursday and Friday are dead by any means. It's busy every day, everywhere around San Diego Comic-Con. But you particularly see things swell on Saturday and Sunday. And we talk about that also in our outside Comic-Con video, which you can find on our YouTube channel there as well. Make sure leading into this season, watch social media for reservations. Again, whether we're retweeting it or friends at the blog, there will be a variety of activations that will require reservations, and that's a way that you can get in on those things ahead of time. If you miss out on one of those, it never hurts to go to the activation and just be honest and say, hey, I wasn't on social media when this thing happened. I was at work, whatever. Is there a standby line? Is there a way to get into it? Make sure to watch social media for reports on how busy things are, how much time they take. Again, especially when they're outside Comic-Con, when it's going to require you crossing thousands of people to get there. At the end of the day, time is the greatest currency of Comic-Con. And so always remember that as you only have this much time or however long you're going to be in San Diego, there's only a finite amount of it. And so spend it very carefully and wisely, and hopefully it takes you to having the most fun at the show. So I hope this helps as a little bit of a beginner's guide here. If veterans watched as well, I don't know if there's something that was a reminder there. Again, feel free to jump in the comments and add other strategies and tips to help each other. The whole reason we ever started Parks and Cons and did things with San Diego Comic-Con was to help people, because there was a lot of things that I felt like I needed help with, and a lot of people weren't very helpful is what I found. And so that's why we're very open with our information, and that's the point of doing these things. We hope that this little video essay thing here of beginner's guide is helpful to at least one of you out there, and hopefully you become a longtime Comic-Con attendee, having a fantastic time, and you come up with your own tips and you pass those on to other people, friends, family, or the audience and wide, just to enjoy as well. So with that said, we're going to wrap up here from the Hall H line. Until next time, we'll see you in line somewhere.